Hello, and this video is a re-record of what I had already done because I forgot to turn the audio on, and that is very sad. But anyways, let's get on to the concept with this video, which is going to be variables. Now, what is a variable? Well, variables are basically containers that can store data that can be accessed anywhere in your code. Right, so that is a very simple definition of variables. And in code in C#, which is the language that we're using, how do you define a variable that you want to access all over your code? Well, here is the convention, or the boilerplate that you use to to create a variable. So the type of the variable. Now I will get into the different types that are there, and the name of the variable. And either you can end it off here, you can just declare a variable and set its value, like when you press W you want to set the health to like 1 or something, or you can define a default value here equals to value. So this is the naming convention. This is not the naming convention, sorry. This is just the default way you declare variables. Now let's get on to the types. And if you don't remember, these double forward slashes are comments. They don't get called by your code. So types. So there are 3 main types that you'll be finding yourself using a lot. There is float, which is basically just any number with a decimal value. So, and an important thing to note about float, so if I were to say float, which is the type, the name, I can give it to whatever name. I will set it equal to 12.0. And you might be thinking, well, isn't that it? Or 12.1, sorry. You might be thinking, well, that's it. Why is it throwing me an error? And that is because whenever you're defining a float, if you don't put an F after the number, the code will not know that you're trying to declare a float. So an F after the number is a necessity when declaring a float. Alright, then there is an int. And now an int is a whole number. So again, hint some int. And for this, you don't need to put an F. That'll just throw an error saying, well, it's a float. F is only used for a float. Why are you using it for an int? So you don't need the F here. And then another important one is called the string. The string is basically a bunch of Unicode characters. So this right here, some random text over here, is a string. So I can do string some text is equal to some random text. And then there is object, but we will not go into that right now. And so, but how would you access this code? Because currently it's showing the names of these variables are grayed out, and that is because it's never being accessed in the code. This whatever name, this some int, this some text is not being accessed anywhere in the code. Right, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna first access some text. So instead of print debug.logging some random text here, I'll debug.log some text. And it's the same thing, it's just gonna look at what some text is. So some text is currently just a string, which is some random text. And remember, debug.log can take in any type here. So I can give whatever name. It's a float. I can give some int. Basically any type debug.log will be able to read. So I'll just leave it at some text. And you can set variables value anywhere you would like in the code. So when we press W, let's say I want to increase some int by 1. So that would mean I would just do some int. Now there's 2 ways you can go about this. You can say some int is equal to the current some int value plus 1, but there's a much easier way to do this, and that is by just doing sum int plus equals 1, which is just going to do the exact same thing. And there's one for minus and plus. And then I can print sum int. And just remember, print and debug.log are exactly the same thing. So instead of debug.logging here, just to make it more simple, I'll just print it here. And if I save this, just remember sum int is 12. Head over into Unity. Let it compile, do its work. Wow. Alright, and it's showing me a warning because some of the variables here are unnecessary and redundant because we don't need them, because they're not being called anywhere, but I'm just going to leave it there for the sake of the tutorial. Now, it's printing out some random text because the sum text variable is set to some random text, and it's printing it out in the start. And if I hit W, we press W, and remember the original value of sum int was 12, and that is being plussed with 1, the current value of sum int, and that is being 13. Alright, now that is it for this video on variables. In the next video, we're going to be getting into privates, publics, and serialized fields. Alright, I'll see you in the next one.